The year was 2007. We were 12 months away from a crazy economic collapse, but that's in the future. Right now, you had the opportunity to purchase a 1.6 liter turbocharged Mini Cooper S. That 1.6 liter engine is making 172 horsepower and 177 pound-feet of torque. And thanks to the fact that this thing weighed 2,700 pounds, you're looking at a 0 to 60 time of right around 6 seconds. This is a front engine, front wheel drive machine, and this model specifically was pretty handily equipped. You're talking about center exhaust means Mini Cooper S, but in addition to that, this car had the sport package, which is a different suspension tuning, and it also had the limited slip differential. Truly the only option that this car did not have was the navigation system in the center. Instead, you just have this massive speedometer, which I love. I love the fact that there is only a rev counter in front of you. I love the fact that there is so much glass in this cabin, but let's get underway for the backroads portion. As we start to get off the highway, we're going to kick this thing into sport and get into the twisties. What we talk about in the backroads portion of the Money Shifter reviews are a couple things. Number one, we focus on steering and how is the steering in this vehicle. It is direct, it is precise, it is quick. Look at all the movements that we're making as we take this exit here. Every single small little input to the steering wheel has an action. When they say that the Mini Cooper S drives like a golf cart, that is one of the reasons why, and by golf I mean go, is because there is zero on-center play, and because of the short wheelbase of the Mini Cooper, it feels like it just darts into place. The second thing that we like to focus on in these reviews is the transmission. How does the transmission feel in the Mini Cooper S? And in a word, it feels mechanical. While the throws in between 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 aren't necessarily the most direct, and you do sort of have to guide it into place, the shifter itself is very notchy. It clicks into place, which is nice. So while you have to search for the direction you're pushing the gear lever in, the overall action is very mechanical. So this system is overall really good to use. The clutch itself has a good weight. Let's give it a little gas here. You can see it does pick up very quickly. This turbocharged engine and its 177 pound-feet of torque do a good job at getting up and going. This thing definitely loves to move, and I actually do love the sound of this engine. Let's take a listen as we get into these twisties. Decent amount of road noise, but that's okay. You don't expect this thing to be a luxury cruiser. Where this thing comes into its own is a road like this that is met with a lot of turns, and because the transmission itself has a short gear ratio, you're looking at something that is a blast to drive at low speeds. This car truly is a ton of fun. I really do enjoy it, and guys, this is exactly where this car feels at home. A back road where you can just let it go. Sounds great. Throaty for a 1.6. We love to see that. Now, the Mini Cooper S was available with a 6-speed automatic that did actually get a ton of praise in its day. But why would you go with that when a 6-speed manual was available? And the shifts are just so easy. While you gotta direct the shifter, you know exactly where it is, and you're definitely not gonna miss a shift in this car. The pedal placement also is very nice for heel towing. Very direct, very natural, very easy to heel tow in this car. Last thing that we touch on in the backroads portion are the brakes. The bite is very strong early and holds firm. I like the overall setup in the Mini Cooper. Guys, if you are thinking about a car for fun backroads drives, this is your machine. You can find this Mini Cooper S now for well under $10,000, in some cases under $5,000, and you're going to be hard-pressed to beat this experience for the cash. But let's get on the highway to see if we can get a similar experience with the Mini, or if that's where things start to falter as we manage to get up to speed on the highway. We are going to focus on a couple things here. Okay, we're going to focus on wind noise. Let's give it some gas. Shift into second. Love that. We're going to focus on wind noise. We're going to focus on how this suspension feels. And we're also going to focus on how this car cruises. We can touch on things like infotainment, audio system, whatever. But when you're paying under $7,000 for something like this, that stuff doesn't mean as much. I'm going to be honest with you. What you guys care about is the overall driving experience. So let's give it some beans. Let's get up to highway speed and let's see what we're dealing with. As we shift onto the highway here, thanks to that incredibly large center speedometer, you see that, well, we had to slow down a little bit because of oncoming traffic, but we're cruising at about 50 miles an hour, and in 6th gear, we are at a skosh under 3,000, which is bad news bears. When you are cruising at a high rate of speed, and I classify high rate as over 70, this little 1.6 definitely spins very high. So while you're still getting a relatively good MPG, we're talking about 28 MPG when you're in mixed driving, leaning more towards highway. The fact of the matter is that when you're cruising at these highway speeds, just listen to how loud and how much noise comes in here. Very windy, very windy. In addition to that, the ergonomics in the Mini Cooper don't really make it that of which is strong for a road trip vehicle. The cup holders are located directly in front of the gear selector, which is fine, but what's also located right next to the cup holders is the access to the window switches to move them up and down. So if you have anything in the cup holders, you can't really access the window switches unless you take whatever's in the cup holders out. It's just a design element that doesn't really make any sense. Now, the suspension overall on the highway also kind of falls flat because we have the sport package here in this Mini Cooper. The suspension is tuned for back roads and track driving, which is not something that is conducive for long road trips, expansion joints, potholes. You go over any bump in this Mini Cooper and you're feeling it. Did you get a filling last week? It's popping right out. While the Mini Cooper is planted at highway speeds thanks to this sport suspension, it certainly isn't the most comfortable. The seats themselves are fine, but the ride of the vehicle is where it falters. So while the car overall is planted and you feel comfortable driving at a high rate of speed in terms of your confidence in your ability to make maneuvers and do things, your overall actual levels of comfort are very low. You have a lot of noise being piped into the cabin. You have low comfort with the sport suspension that wants to pop your filling out. And you got bad ergonomics like where the cup holders are and things like that. So overall, road tripping this thing or doing long stints on the highway definitely isn't where the Mini Cooper thrives, and that's a-okay, because let's be honest, while a lot of Americans travel on the highway every day, the average American commute is under 30 miles. So if you're looking at something that goes right in the city or right in the town, the Mini Cooper is a decent option. Reliability aside, because that definitely is a problem with these cars, it is a good option, and you can get a relatively fully loaded one for a cheap price. Again, this Mini Cooper right here is fully loaded, had a sticker price new of $27,000, and now you can get these things for well under $6,000. But let's talk about how the Mini Cooper S performs in around town driving. I love that sound, guys. 1.6-liter four-cylinder turbo engine sounds the beans. Kudos to Mini Cooper for finding a way to get great sound out of such a small engine. So around town, guys, what are the things that we notice about the Mini Cooper? Number 1, the steering. Number 2, the steering. Number 3, the steering. The steering in the Mini Cooper really makes city and town driving an absolute breeze. You can dip, dive, dodge, dart around wherever you want, and thanks to the ability to really just be a smooth operator with this transmission, this is the perfect package for city driving. And I know what you guys are thinking. You're like, hey T, okay, I make trips to the grocery store. I go to Costco. I go to Lowe's. Why would I buy a Mini Cooper? I need an SUV for all of my things. Well, let me tell you, okay? We go to Costco regularly, as one does, okay? And 9 times out of 10, even though we have a Ford Maverick in the household that is a small pickup truck, we take the Mini Cooper. Why? I'm going to be honest, I don't actually know. But the groceries are no problem. The Mini Cooper actually has a surprising amount of space for a car of this size. You really can fit a lot of things inside. You fold those back seats down and it gives you so much room to put groceries. And if you're a one-person household, maybe a two-person couple, this vehicle has more than enough room to get you all the things you need. Is it a little irritating on the inside? Yes. Are the cup holders in a weird location? Yes. Is it confusing to operate the ventilation? Yes. Are there weird seat reclining knobs? Yes. This car has quirks, there is no doubt about it, but at the end of the day is one of the most pleasant cars to drive for under $10,000. What Mini was able to create new for around $20,000, MSRP as tested here of $27,000, they created one of the most dynamic driving experiences, and the fact that you can get this thing for under $10,000 today is just a steal. So let's wrap up this review with the final thoughts on the Mini Cooper S. 2007 was a crazy year, and this car just added to the fray. Mini produced a 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that made this thing an absolute riot. It's very torquey with the limited slip differential. The torque steer is minimalized, and because it's not quick, you can have fun without worrying about getting a without getting a felony. And that is the beauty of the Mini Cooper. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. I am your host, Thanasi. This is the Money Shift YouTube channel. I will see you all in a few days where we're taking the Ford Maverick in some light snow.